I'm on the link here. It's just loading right now. How many? Let me see if this is 48 seconds ago. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, let's see what we got. Every time I go on this, wait. I still don't hear any sound. Okay, all right. I'm going to wait for this new link coming in. I'm going to wait for it. Seems like this match is kind of falling apart a little bit. But they're kind of trying to go back, bring it up. Let's see what they do with it now. The first match was a little underwhelming. The second seems to be a little, I don't know, it's tough with a 6-man. Lots of moving parts. Yep, we're back to sound, baby. So, headbutt. And Bob Eaton is being covered for a 2 count. We got sound. So everyone, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the technical difficulties. I will talk to Mr. Marty about what's going on. There might have been a switch not hit. We have sound.
All right, kid, I'll carry it for a second.
Well, no, that's fine with me. All right, so everyone, right now, I apologize again, but we're in the middle of the second match. If anyone needs to be caught up to speed, first match, Mike Rotundo lost to Tom Zank. Second match, we got the Samoans against Dr. Death, Stan Lane, Bob Eaton. Bob Eaton's trying to make a little bit of a comeback against, I believe this is Tonga. No, this is Fatu, I believe. Oh, boom, big clothesline. Now, here's the thing with the Samoans. You can punch a Samoan, but you can't do anything to hit their head against anything. You can't give them a headbutt. You can't hit their head on the mat. I don't know what it is with the Samoan head. They just have a very weird head, and apparently it's rock hard. So you can't crack a Samoan skull easily. I believe that could be seen as a little controversial in today's culture, but, you know, suffice to say, the Samoans have a pretty big head, or a pretty hard head. Let's see here. All right, another headbutt. I believe this is Samu. And Bob Eaton is just getting, Bob Eaton's taking the heat. He's taking a couple headbutts, too. Lazy bum. Mr. Marty is worse than Brian Blair. I don't know if I'd go that far. But he's trying his best. I know he's been in that mic room for the last 10 to 15 minutes at least, maybe even longer than that, trying to get some sound and working visuals. So I've got to thank him for that. Oh, that's a bite. Oh, my God, he actually left a bite mark. Look at that. He left an actual bite mark. Oh. Geez, Bob Eaton's taking a little bit of a punishment over here. And I believe this is Tonga. Well, I call him Tonga. I always know him as the Tonga Kid. Oh, see, I hate that. When the ref turns their back and a new heel comes in, it just devalues things. Phil, it's great to hear from you. Rick B, you can hear. I'm glad you can. And thank you, Lazy Bum, for sticking around. Jim Cornette, not doing much for me as a babyface manager. Just seems like he's just sort of there. I just don't get it. Now, anyone out there, the 3 Samoans in this match, is it Fatu, Samu, and Tonga? Is that it? Those are the 3, correct? Right now, we've got Tonga tagging in, and on the outside in the white, it's going to be Samu and Fatu. Is that correct? Okay, yes. All right. Again, I just make sure. Is that what they called them here in WCW? They called them Samoan Savage. And it was Fatu and Samu. That was it. Pretty sure. Oh. Lifted the knees up. What town was this out of? I want to say Baltimore or Philly, but I could be wrong. What city did this event take place out of? I don't think it was anything down south, but I could be wrong on that. Oh. And here comes no-selling Dr. Death, who just wants to get his shit in. Oh, wow. Jeez. Dr. Death was quite a hoss. Talented, but man, he did not want to sell for anyone, it looked like. But he got over in this match. He looked like $1 million. He should have thanked all the Samoans after this. Power slam. Great. Any kind of, I mean, the power slam always gets the people up. I always notice a power slam and a spine buster. Oh, that was rough. I don't know what that was. Neck breaker, and he just turned in the wrong way. Match is kind of falling out a little bit. Stanley wants to go through some karate. This is a weird match. It's kind of good, and then it kind of falls apart. Enziguri, I think this is going to be into like a DQ situation. It looks like it's just kind of falling to pieces. Humperdinck and Jim Cornette have done nothing here. They've just kind of been there. Oh, now they do one spot. Oh. 2. We got a 3 count. Finally, this match ends. This match ends. Phil, he sold for Brad Armstrong, and Brad dropped an elbow. Well, Phil, if you don't sell for Brad Armstrong, you just suck. That's all I'm going to say, because Brad Armstrong was smooth as butter. And if you don't sell for that guy, I think you just, I don't know, man. If you can't work with Brad Armstrong, like, you know, I think Brad Armstrong could take a broom that's half broken and have a good match with him. I don't know. Yeah, I agree, Phil. So, Phil, I could say, I'll speak for myself here. I miss seeing you. I hope to see you around, but I hope to see you November the 13th. Dan Marty has been putting that in my head. I should get it tattooed on my back. November the 13th, Melrose, Massachusetts, Memorial Hall. We have the legends of yesterday, today, and tomorrow coming. And some of them can maybe talk about this period in wrestling. It's a very interesting period, 1989, because it's kind of like the period of the big wrestling boom. WCW at this point, it's not number 1. They're number 2 de facto. But, we got Terry Funk and Gary Young. Let's see what they say here. Phil, you'll be there? That's good. Gary Young never really did too much besides Texas and a little bit in WCW. I wish he had gotten out a little bit more. I think he was a really talented guy. And Terry Funk, who by this point I think is well into his 40s, he looks great here. He looks awesome. Looks great. I think he had done Roadhouse around this time, right? I think he was in Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, I believe. I had to hit my hands to remember Patrick Swayze. I should always know Patrick Swayze. And look at Gordon Soley. He's standing there and he's letting them take over, but he's not standing there like a goon who just sits there and asks a dumb question. He stands there. He acts as a neutral party, and he just stands there, but he stands there intelligently. I really appreciated Gordon Soley. Really did. I would say next to Jim Ross and Lance Russell, greatest wrestling commentators I've ever heard. And I would go with Dave Brown from Memphis. Cuban Assassin. Oh, God, there's a name. Is this the same Cuban Assassin that was in Stampede? Or is this a different? Was that David Sierra? Holy crap. Liberace's wardrobe was stolen by Tommy Rich. Wildfire Tommy Rich. My gosh. Former NWA World Heavyweight Champion for 4 days. Won in 1980. He's another one of my favorites. I have to say I liked some of the guys on this card quite a bit. I think Tom Zank was a little underrated. I think IRS Mike Rotundo was a bit underrated for sure. I think all the guys in the last match were really talented. The last match was a little, yeah. And I think Tommy Rich was a pretty good hand in the ring. Tommy, now who's got the best mullet on this show? Would Zank count as a mullet, or would Tommy Rich's, or it'd be probably Bob Eaton? I think Bob Eaton might have had the best mullet in the show. Every wrestling show in the 80s had at least 1 or 2 mullets, I would say. And Mr. Marty is back with us. Thank you for saving
Trick or treat. What have I missed? Wildfire Tommy Rich against Who was that? The Cuban assassin?
Well, it was, yes, it was. Now,
Wrestling fans, we apologize for the delay. If you're just seeing this message on social media, thank God for Executive Director here at the studio for helping us bring sound to
thank
this
you so much.
non-presentation video-wise. But we're watching along. AEW's rocking and rolling. We got a nor'easter here in the Northeast. I'm back from Halloween Horror Nights. We're 17 nights away from the big one, the 20th anniversary. I got more wildfire in me than Tommy Rich right now, baby.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of fire. Smokey could only put out that fire.
Well, looking forward to seeing her.
And we're
live and in person in 17
We're
nights.
going to see our friend Phil in 17 days. Phil's going to be there November the 13th. I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Phil is going to be with us live?
He's going to be with us live November the 13th. Right, Phil? I better see you. You better say hi to me.
We're going to have some big announcements coming up for the VIP Ultra folks about the opportunity to come down here that weekend on Friday and Sunday. We got some great interactive experiences coming up. I will not say too much.
It's a jam-packed week for you, especially.
Folks, let me tell you, there's so much news. If you are planning on joining us November 13th live at Memorial Hall, Melrose, Massachusetts, check out the video we posted. I think it was 5:30 p.m. tonight. You can find it, the link on Twitter. Jesus.
Geez. Is it me or
that was
the Wildfire put his trunks in the wash with some pink shirts? They seem to be, I don't know if that was the design.
I think he was trying to go for tie-dye, but it just died in the middle. Folks, if you're trying to catch up with where we are, it is in the middle of the Tommy Rich Cuban Assassin, probably what, the third match, fourth match?
Third match. So you missed the first two, which the first match was Mike Rotunda and Tom Zink, which I thought started out good, but it just slowed down to the point where it just seemed uninspired.
Just seemed slow.
Seemed slow. And
kind of like someone else we know.
Well, no names. But the second match, it seemed to start off promising. Dr. Death didn't want to sell a thing in this match, apparently. He was just like, nope, not selling a thing.
What was the match?
It was the Samoan Savage, which I believe was Tonga, and it was Samu and Fatu, who would be future Rikishi, against Eaton, Bobby Eaton, Stan Lane, and Dr. Death, with a babyface Jim Cornette manager. And then they had Humperdinck as the big kahuna, they called him, which, to me, honest, I like Sir Oliver Humperdinck, but he kind of looked like a second-rate Albano out there with the earring and the big shirt and the beard. And
I can see people thinking that.
You know,
that was kind of his gimmick down in Florida. But Phil would probably remember even better than I, being the aficionado that he is. That was my good friend Slick Rick still here.
Slick Rick was in one of the links. I see Phil in there.
We have so many links.
Rick was in here earlier. Hello, Matthew Holland. I know Phil is around. Lazy Bum's around.
Lazy Bum I saw earlier.
Yeah, it is. It does look like a weird tie-dye. I love Tommy Rich. I thought he had great runs in Memphis and Georgia. He just never, I think he should have tried at the WWF, but he didn't have, I don't think he would have gone far there with his body.
Well, that body might have done him some good with Jim Barnett when he got the NWA world title, but that's just speculation.
He was a young, good-looking fella. He really was. You know, with that long blonde hair, and his body wasn't that bad then. Speaking of young, good-looking men, Oliver Humperdinck liked the young, good-looking men, I believe.
Really?
That's what I heard.
I had never heard that about Oliver
Humperdinck. I heard he liked the fellas. I didn't
never
know
heard
about
that.
him. Never heard.
I remember we taped the Paul Bearer Studio shoot interview DVD that's available over on patreon.com/Boston Wrestling the day he passed. And Percy dedicated the interview to him. I don't know how many times in life someone has had a shoot interview dedicated to them, but it may have been a first.
And he was a guy, he had a run in Florida. I think he went to Texas for a little bit. Kind of territorial, kind of like Gary Young. Gary Young was with Terry Funk, who looked great, by the way. Terry Funk in 1989.
Oh, I thought you were talking about now.
Well, no, not now. But back then, 1989 was Terry Funk's year. Roadhouse, the matches with Flair. He was just on fire. It was probably one of the best years he ever had in the business. But Gary Young was on there, and he's a guy who didn't have a lot of. It seemed like WCW was trying to give a run to some of those guys who weren't really that well known on a national level, but had territorial runs, kind of to compete with the WWF at that point, because they weren't getting a lot of WWF guys unless they were finished up and on their way out. Let's see if we have any comments. It wasn't just his last name; it was his practice. Sorry, bad joke from Phil. What, Humperdinck?
Well,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay.
Humperdinck.
Well, yeah. You're right too, Phil. They would have buried Tommy Rich in WWF. Probably, would have given him like a Sam Houston run, if anything. Woof. But you know what? I was watching some of these matches, and it's amazing to me, even though the matches could fall apart and be a little slow, I find them to be more enjoyable than a lot of what goes on today in some ways because they're easier to follow on. You okay? Got a cunt hair?
I have had, I'm trying not to, I'm not talking as I'm trying not to cough. I've had, this phlegm for days, ever since before I left for Florida. I went through Dayquil. Linda told me to try Mucinex, and I keep coughing everything up. And don't worry, it has nothing to do with the big C, but I'm trying to, I may have to go cough into a Kleenex in a minute. But
All right. Didn't know if it was number 3.
no, it certainly was not from that.
Okay.
But you never know, potentially.
It happens. It's happened.
I'm trying to maintain my throat's composure.
Well, you might need it for 11/13.
But boy, am I ever going to need it.
Yeah, a lot of
That
developments.
should be the ultimate VIP package. Watch November 13th with Dan Marty. 99.
Are we going to have some announcements coming up about November the 13th? Some people in the chat might want to know.
What's that?
Some people in the chat may want to know about a certain ho. Okay. All right.
I need a napkin.
Well, as Mr. Marty goes and coughs up a lung, we're here with the action. Tommy Rich is giving it to the Cuban assassin. Wouldn't the Cuban assassin have worn a mask? That's all I want to know. Wouldn't have he decided to put a mask? And by the way, between the two of them, not one ab was shown, not one carb was missed. These guys. But he could. Oh well, goof.
Who do you think it might be?
Huh? No, not that I can see. Your brother looks fine. Did the Fez press? Tommy Rich won.
Is that what he used? The Luthez press?
He used the Fez press, and he would hook his legs behind him and.
Old school.
Yeah, and I'm watching this, and I'm wondering. This is 1989 WCW, and this is before the Bill Watts era.
Oh yeah.
This is Jim Herd, and there's not really a lot of gimmicks on this card. It's more or less straight wrestling, but it seemed like they were really trying to keep a more stripped down, basic approach with how they wanted their product to come along. It's a lot less thrills than WWF at that time. The production's not anywhere close.
No.
The WCW at one point had, I think, a better production than WWF, but that was years later.
Honestly, there was no need for that match to be on the pay-per-view.
I don't know if there's any need for the second match to be on the pay-per-view. The first,
well, at least those guys were being pushed to some capacity. Tommy Rich really wasn't. And Cuban Assassin, I don't remember ever doing much of anything in NWA/WCW. But we're glad you're here, folks. Hopefully, if you're watching AEW Dynamite, maybe if you're at AEW Dynamite tonight in Boston. I'll tell you this. Did I tell you that we had a big guest lined up today?
They're in the Reggie Lewis Center tonight, right?
Aganis Arena?
Oh, it's one of the two. I can't remember.
Well, no, they're at it. I don't know if that's Reggie Lewis Center.
Okay. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, we had a big guest lined up today that the Nor'easter knocked out. But hopefully we're going to be having someone really cool from AEW with us, eminently.
Ooh.
That you will, if you don't know who this is, I'll be shocked.
A big AEW star.
Very big.
I'm kind of going through all the names in my head.
I didn't tell you?
Well, no. I mean, we haven't really gotten to talk much.
This was just kind of put together, I think, maybe the day before I left for Florida. So maybe that's why.
The last time I think we actually spoke was that Red Sox game where we saw them beat Tampa, which thank you again for bringing us. Yeah, it might have been right then. Which, by the way, tonight's game 2.
Well, of the World Series,
of the World Series.
not the Red Sox.
No, not the Red Sox.
Broke
Oh,
my heart.
dynamic dudes, Johnny Ace, Shane Douglas, and Jim Cornette. By the way, where did this show take place? Was this Philly or was this Baltimore? I don't think it was.
My gut tells me Philadelphia.
Okay, I think
But
so too.
obviously, this has been heavily
Which
redubbed,
makes
whatever song
sense.
they had.
Which makes sense because Philly was not known for liking the baby faces much,
Little fellatio.
particularly these types of baby faces.
I love Philadelphia. Have you ever seen a show in Philadelphia?
I've been to Philly once as a kid, or a couple times, but I've never been to a show in Philly. But you were telling me they have some great crowds in Philly.
Great crowds. I took in a Phillies game the day of one of the pay-per-views. And of course, I had my subs.
Was that?
I get one at Pat's and one at Geno's.
Oh.
So they can't say I discriminate.
What I heard about the subs there is that if you go to the off-the-wall places, the little hole in the walls, those are where the good subs are.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
But I got to go with the legends.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Now, what year was that in? Was that during the Phillies World Series run in 08?
That I was there?
Yes.
Oh, no, this is...
Oh, in the WWF time?
No, within the past couple of years.
Oh, okay.
I was in Philadelphia before I did stuff with Ed Cohen.
So this is after they got Harper.
I was there pre my 9 months, during my 9 months, and then post my 9 months. So all three.
Well, Philly, it's not that long to get to from Boston. The grand scheme
No,
of things.
it's a pretty decent ride.
Getting
If
to
you
New
can
York
avoid
is-
the New York City rush hour traffic, you just
Right.
have to kind of time it.
Yeah.
But I'm happy we got this working, guys. I was looking forward to this. Things have been so nuts trying to get ready for this 20th anniversary event. Saturday night, November the 13th, at Memorial Hall in Melrose, Massachusetts. I'm losing my mind.
I almost think that
I get no sleep.
Did you no? Let me ask you. Did you want it when you were scheduling it? Did you want it to be in November?
This event?
Yes.
I like November events.
Because I felt like it's almost like you put it off so far. It's like it gave it all the time for the universe to say, "Hey, this event's coming." It's almost like you would have been better off putting it in October just to have it.
I'm trying to think when they started accepting bookings again. It might have been
Why is it that you like November events?
August?
Any reason?
Generally, we've had our two big hall events of the year run in November and April,
Okay.
March or April.
Okay.
December, I'm not a big fan of, outside of maybe the first weekend because Christmas.
All right.
October in this area,
Mm-hmm.
you run into the potential of the Red Sox doing something special.
Yeah.
I go back in time to 2007. We did a live event with our great friends at the Special Olympics. We sold over 600 tickets in advance. Day of the event, guess how many showed up?
15.
About 300.
Oh, that's right.
Guess how many tickets we sold at the door that night?
Was it like about 15? I think it was.
9.
Yeah. Okay, that was the number because I remember there was a small number. You were telling me that story.
It was either game 2 or game 3 of the World Series with the Red Sox and the Rockies, and it killed us.
Well, you told
and
me the
that's
story.
made me fearful of October.
Well, you told me the story of working with TNA years ago where they had the Patriots. Now that was early in the year, wasn't it? That was
No, it was during the playoffs.
Well, I meant early, like because the playoffs are in
January.
That's why I meant early in the year.
TNA would have killed for one of our houses. It was so bad at the Songa Center in Lowell. And it was a good show. The whole weekend was filled with good wrestling. They were in at not the Worcester Centrum / DCU Center in Worcester, but the convention center next door on the Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, before I knew him, David Reese sat behind me as a guest to Christopher Daniels. The Saturday, they were in Plymouth at a beautiful Memorial Hall. And I wound up helping with the Jeff Hardy pictures, which went on for hours, which was a lot of fun. They made a fortune off of that, but the Sunday was just atrocious. And I can't put Jeff Hardy over enough for trying to help with some of our charitable endeavors that weekend. He's a good egg for all his personal issues he's had. And I especially disagree with anyone drinking and driving. He's a good soul.
No, I agree with you. But to this day, WWE they don't use him correctly at all. They really
maybe they don't trust him.
It could be that. I know he's older. He's not a spring chicken.
Well, you know what? With the face paint, you really can't tell.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true. So what do you think? You got the dudes and the Freebirds. This is like the new Freebirds, Jimmy Jim Garvin and Michael P.S. Hayes, which
Definitely not as over as the original
No,
incarnation.
no. And this was, I believe, Jim Cornette would talk about how Jimmy Garvin wanted to act like he was a little bit bigger than what he was in the ring, but physically anyway.
Yeah, I was
but
never much of a Jimmy Garvin guy.
I think Jimmy Garvin, Jimmy Garvin was one of those, a territory guy, worked the different territories, had a couple good runs, was in Texas during that Hot Von Erich time. And the dudes really weren't that bad. You got dudes on your tights. How over can you get?
Well, I always thought Shane Douglas deserved more of a shot than he got. I think he was a WCW tag team champion for a short period of time in '93 with Ricky Steamboat when they were feuding with Austin and Pillman, the Hollywood Blondes. But, WWF, his 2 runs there were kind of a waste.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of an enhancement talent the first time. Then when he went back as Dean Douglas, that was just a horrendous gimmick during a year of horrendous gimmicks in WWF. But, he kind of found his niche in ECW, which were intense promos with a lot of swearing. But when he went back to WCW in the late 90s, there really wasn't much for him in that position.
Right. Well, funny, actually, 2 things. Phil says Garvin was on the gas here, or gas at this time. Or maybe not this time.
Jimmy Garvin?
Wait, was he on the gas in Texas or at this time, Phil? Because if he's on the gas at this time, because he was a little
He got
bloated.
the wrong stuff.
Yeah, same with Michael P.S. Hayes. Michael P.S. Hayes looks like a fatter Shawn Michaels. And this is when Shawn Michaels was a little, chunky
He looks
himself.
like maybe like 93 Shawn Michaels.
93 Shawn Michaels, who
when
let
the
himself even go
steroid
a
tests
little
were
bit
in full
more.
effect.
Yeah. When the great Marty story of Shawn getting the little dropped
Mr.
in there.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's what happened. Marty Jannetty, of all people, will be there 11-13.
We got a whole host of
Yes.
superstars. It's unfortunate that our friend Hacksaw Jim Duggan had a very, very serious emergency surgery.
What is that
last
about?
week.
I just heard about it a couple of days ago. Is it heart surgery?
I spoke with Mrs. Duggan. I don't even have the full details, but that's their business to decide to share at the end of the day. But
Phil said,
major scare. Paul Orndorff was involved with this event. Road Warrior Animal was involved with this event.
It's like a death knell.
It put a little scare into me. For a day until I found out that everything was going to be okay. Mrs. Duggan is a very, very nice lady and was going to be with them November the 13th. But as usual, I worked around the clock trying to come up with something that was going to work. And we did the best we could. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We get another Hall of Fame addition to the show, which makes it even better. A rare Massachusetts appearance, a man that hasn't been with us in over 10 years. So I think that's pretty cool.
Oh,
a little bit of a history with us.
Well, by the way, Phil has mentioned it was this time he was on the gas, which is kind of, whatever he took, did not take it right. That's all I'm going to say.
How do you know that, Phil? I know Phil is an expert about certain things, so I respect his knowledge, but I don't see it. Is it because he's bloated or?
Speaking of bloated, maybe bloated egos, Cam Zagami and John Cena Sr. have some issues. Are they going to be kind of coming head to head, nose to nose, mano a mano?
I can't see it not happening. Fans of the MWF, you're going to get a Halloween-themed MWF Extra this week with Cam Zagami in studio. He's put together a hell of a faction that's going to be competing November the 13th at Memorial Hall.
The Uprising?
His issues with the Uprising, you never know what may get a rise.
Listen, they are not to be taken lightly. I looked at that lineup, and we're going to talk about some of the more in-ring competitors coming up, but that lineup it's nothing to laugh at.
Well, I mean, look at from right before coronavirus, you had the Uprising, you had Carmelo Hayes, now the NXT North American champion.
Could you believe he'd be North American champion?
I believe he's the North American champion.
Well, I mean, if someone had told you, hey, 6 months ago, he's going to be the North American champion.
I would have loved for him to have been the North American champion and still be competing with us November 13th. But
well, maybe down the road, maybe something happens.
Then look at Brian Pillman Jr. Now he's with AEW. He was part of the Uprising faction.
Well,
Tommaso Ciampa, NXT, the World? I don't know if they call that the World title.
Did he lose to Braun Breaker?
Did he lose? I didn't finish watching it.
I didn't watch it.
I think he's retained.
Well,
I could be wrong. Did
Yeah.
anyone watch NXT last
Did
night?
Braun Breaker win the title? He should have. Should give him the moon.
Luke Robinson?
Ciampa won.
He did win. Okay.
How did he win clean? He didn't win clean, did he?
Luke Robinson was a finalist on Tough Enough the year
Mhm.
Steve Austin was the coach. Velveteen Dream turned into the Velveteen Nightmare. But,
Well,
I mean, that faction has seen a lot of guys go on to find great success.
he won clean.
Who?
Ciampa.
Oh.
He beat. I believe it was clean. He says. Well, that's all right. Oh.
You know, one thing, this really highlights how small the NWA ring was compared to
that,
WWF.
though. I kind of like it because it makes everyone look bigger. And it was a better bumping ring, so the guys had a little bit more area to work with. I think the big WWF ring helped the production of it.
Maybe.
But this, for a pure wrestling show, it kind of, I know the ring we're using, you said it, I believe is a 16 by 16 or 18 by 18. I can't remember which one you told me. It's not 20 by 20.
No, it's not 20 by 20. I don't remember. I'm so tired. I think it's 18 by 18.
I do love Breaker too, Phil. I think he's going to be the future of the business in the next 3-4 years.
Wow. High praise from
I think within
old
5
CW.
years. I mean, Barrington, he looks great. Look at him. Looks like a Greek god. He's got the pedigree. He's got the attitude. I think he actually resonates more in today's world where everything's got to be politically correct. He just comes out and says what he wants. I think that guy's always going to be over.
I may have a story in a minute.
DDT on the concrete floor. Ciampa did on Breaker. Okay.
Well, that's passable. Now, if you see the two photographers at ringside, you have Bill Apter, who's well known. The other gentleman is a very, very, very close friend of mine named Dennis Brent. He went on to become a very high-powered executive at WWF.
Dennis Brim?
Dennis Brent.
Dennis Brent.
He's the photographer on the right. Why they would be on the hard camera side, I have no idea because I'd want to stab them. But Dennis worked with NW. He started off, he met Paul Bearer as Percy Pringle in World Class at a print shop. I don't remember. Dennis had something to do with printing.
He met a print
and
shop.
he became
Where?
friends with Percy. He loved wrestling. Percy got him in to do stuff with World Class. Then I don't know who it was. Someone got him into the NWA, and he worked with the NWA from, say, 88 through right around the Attitude Era because funny story, this guy that's the photographer, he helped WWF navigate where to do that DX Army invasion of WCW headquarters.
In Virginia, right?
And that was right around the time that Dennis went to WWF to work with JR, and he worked with WWF until, I'm going to say, 06. And his wife, Lynn, worked there, too. They both worked in wrestling. And he has MS now, unfortunately, but we still communicate online.
Where does he live? Do you know?
Texas.
Okay. So he was a executive. I wonder what he did.
He was the assistant director of talent relations.
For the NWA?
No, for WWE.
No,
and WCW?
Well, you said NWA, and I wondered, did he stay with NWA through the 90s?
Yeah, he was there for a good, probably close to 10 years.
Wow.
I don't remember what his role was.
Because when you think about NWA in the 90s, you kind of think of them more as a bunch of independent promotions, more or less. The Corluzos.
Well, I'm going to say, it's 89 now when he's there. I think he went in 88 when World Class was just about dead.
And the NWA, they were with WCW till about 93, and WCW in 93 had this weird, the heel. Wow, this is the second match in a row.
This is a unique finish.
Yeah. And that's the thing about what I like about the wrestling from this era. The spots, the finishes, everything's kind of more unique.
Young Doug Dillinger next to some rat.
Doug Dillinger, from what I understand, was not a great security guard. He had a little bit of some issues of security.
How many of you guys are watching Halloween Havoc with us, or are you just listening to us banter? I know we have like 95 links going right now.
95 links. Well, I would say this. Whether they're watching or they're listening to the banter, it's nice to know they're joining in.
Well, the good news is we're going to be doing it again Halloween night.
This is a cool
is
spot.
Sunday. And we're, I think, jumping to Halloween Havoc 90.
You want to do 90?
Yeah, well, you know what? We're going back to the 90s on November the 13th. Why not, baby?
All right. I know some people in the chat were looking at 97, but 90,
Well,
90 could work.
We'll have a lot to go through. We'll have to have a marathon.
Yeah. The Steiners. Speaking of Bond Breaker, his pedigree here.
I think WWE shoots themselves in the foot trying to own his name.
I think so too. I think he's more marketable as a Steiner. Rex Steiner is, he's but he's got a legitimacy about him. When you see a lot of the young talent today, they just don't have anything about them that really. I mean, that guy walks in a room, you look. You see a guy like Darby Allin or a Jungle Boy, or even some of the guys in WWE.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't. Even Ricochet, talented as he is, you put him next to Braun Breaker, I don't see the appeal.
Well, like I said, this Ricochet, there's something special about. He would be my Rey Mysterio for the next decade, but they choose to use him how they use him on a very, very, very slim roster.
I will say about Ricochet, I remember when I watched independent promotions back in the day, and he had the lawn hair that came down here. He was about 120 pounds.
Yep.
He did flips, and to see how his body has changed, whether he did it naturally or not, amazing. He really, I mean, he's got a great physique. He's a great athlete.
And a good guy.
Yeah, there's something genuine about him. I mean,
Good person.
There's definitely
From what I'm told by his peers.
I think so. I think he's got, and I think if he ever to leave Vince, I mean, AEW would take him in a heartbeat. I think.
Oh, he'd be used better in any promotion out there other than maybe Ring of Honor. But
so then we got the Steiners coming. In my mind,
was that a cheap shot?
What's that?
Was that a cheap shot?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just telling the truth. Now, in my opinion, maybe the second best tag team of all time, maybe even the first tag team.
Really?
I think
the Steiners?
I think it's them and the
Wow.
Road Warriors.
All
Them
right.
and LOD. The Steiners. I mean, look, there's a lot of great tag teams, especially in this era of wrestling. But the Steiners, I think, have got to be a top 10 at least. Can you name 9 better than them?
It's all really subjective. I mean, what are you looking at? Oh, that's
Woman.
Nancy Sullivan.
Could you imagine if they brought out a girl and they called her lady, and how people would just be in reaction? Like, they can't call a woman, but it worked. She was woman.
No, that makes me sad.
Oh, Doom, Mass Doom too. This is
Yeah,
before
you know
they got
what?
him.
Fuck Ron Simmons.
Oh God, Ron Simmons.
He can go back to wearing his fucking blue helmet with Sonny.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will not hear the end of the Ron Simmons comments for as long as I live. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I just know it's not good.
It's simple. When you make an agreement, you keep it.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, look, Hacksaw Jim Duggan would have appeared if he didn't have the terrible surgery. Which, does anyone know how long he's going to be out of action for?
I'll say this. We're hoping that he'll be able to accept bookings again for April.
Well, I was going to
So
say,
it's not,
it'd be great.
this isn't a small issue.
Mm-hmm. All right.
If he's healthy enough, he'll be with us. So, again, I want everyone to send positive thoughts down to South Carolina for our friend Hacksaw Jim Duggan. That really bothered me. I had it where we've lost 2 guys already to death. I mean, it put a little scare into me.
And I think what's great about going to see some of these guys is, let's be real, they're not exactly spring chickens. You may not be able to see them so many more times, And I think too, people love that era of every time I get in my car and you switch radio stations, you always get an 80s marathon. You always get an 80s block. Technically, it's the 90s now, but it's the same kind of vibe. People love to go back to the past, and you can't go back to the past forever because some of these guys, look, Butch Reed has passed on.
Yeah.
Butch Reed. Which I don't know why they had them under masks at first. I don't know. I know they took them off. I don't know what
I don't think they were exactly fooling anybody.
No, I think people kind of had an idea.
I like Ron Simmons an awful lot. But I don't know. There's no excuse to back out on your word, whether, you take a booking and then someone offers you a little bit more. What does that say about you as a person? You gave your word, especially at an event that kicks off the Paul Bearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive, which he was a part of the first year when Paul Bearer was still alive. That's a crock of shit, and he should be ashamed of himself. And I told him as much.
What was his reaction to that?
he kept saying, call me like a man or something like that. And I said, you already lied to my, he claimed, even though we negotiated everything via text, he claimed we had a phone conversation. There was never a phone conversation. So I knew he was lying to me at that point. Then he wanted to talk on the phone again. No. Once someone is proven as a liar, I like to communicate with them in writing. Then there's nothing you can dispute.
Okay, makes sense.
So he claimed, he said, oh no, I told you on the phone I was going to check my schedule. No, he didn't. He gave me the information for his flight. Ronald Kerry Simmons.
I can tell you.
I mean, is that if you're checking your schedule, are you going to give someone your middle name for a flight? Come on.
I can tell you this as I can swear on little Marty's eyesight that I did see those text messages where he gave
sent it to you.
Yeah, no, well, you showed it to me. Yeah, you showed it to me. So, and I believe he's actually in the ring right now with Scotty.
Yeah,
I believe so. One of these singlets, the Steiners. When Braun Breaker's out, I wonder if it's one of his dad's old singlets because they look very similar. I always wondered if it's the same.
I'm sure that's the look they were going for when they designed it. If not,
probably. Hey, let's make you look like a Steiner, but actually not call you a Steiner.
We'll tease it.
Yeah. And never mention it. You never talk. Does he ever talk about his bloodline ever? Does he ever talk about his dad and uncle?
I think on one episode they said he was kind of like a dog-faced gremlin or something like that. So they did a little tease, but
God. That guy could wrestle Roman Reigns in the next, and maybe not next WrestleMania, but the year after, and it would probably be, people would want to see it. Actually, I'm surprised they're not hyping Mania already. I know it's a little early.
WrestleMania?
Yeah, I think.
Well, they're trying to worry about filling Survivor Series.
Do you think there's any money matches left? I was thinking of the other day. I think there's one match they could do. There's two matches they could do: Reigns and Rock, or they could do Rock Triple H. But Rock is done. Those are the only two big money matches.
I don't think anyone would care about him and Triple H.
One more time?
I wouldn't be particularly interested. I'd like to see Rock against Roman. I think Rock and Lesnar too would be interesting.
You'd rather see Rock and Lesnar than Rock and Triple H? I'd rather see Rock Triple H.
I saw that I lived there so many times.
Well, for a generation that didn't get to live.
Well, all right, fair enough.
But no, you're right. They were married at the hip for about what, 3? It seemed like 3 years.
A couple of years, yeah. I wouldn't mind Rock and Bobby Lashley. I think that would be a good match.
I think The Rock is the common denominator. He's the one guy they can go out and get and put him in there, and it's a money match.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That speaks to The Rock, and that speaks to how little they have actually developed their own talent into being stars, true stars.
Okay. I think he's made his intentions known. If he can fit it in his schedule, he'd like to work with his cousin.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest match they could do with anyone active. I mean, they're not going to put him against Ziggler or Bobby Roode or.
I just think at this point it's almost like Undertaker. You're almost guaranteed some kind of an injury coming out of it, especially at his age where he's so gassed up.
Yeah, he tore something.
Yeah, the night after that WrestleMania 29. They were supposed to shoot a huge angle with Rock and Lesnar for WrestleMania 30. But because Rock got injured, he wouldn't do it. And that's what led to Undertaker and Lesnar at WrestleMania 30, which ended Undertaker's undefeated streak.
Which was another controversial call.
Please.
Yeah, they shouldn't have. And then next year they had Bray Wyatt wrestle him, I think, and they were like, hey, can Bray Wyatt defeat The Undertaker? And he didn't.
Stunner.
Yeah.
From Ronald Kerry Simmons. Well, you know what? It just shows we got better people coming our way.
Well, the show,
I'll tell you this. Potentially, what we're going to do on Friday night is going to be so much fun. And I don't even think you know about that yet.
There's a lot,
There's a lot you don't know.
Yeah, a lot I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I'm in the closet on a lot.
Trick or treat, as we like to say. Happy Halloween.
But the November the 13th show, I think, has just got. I mean, we're going to obviously talk about more in detail, but the amount of talent. Slick. I mean, let's go through them one by one. We've got Slick. We've got, Backlund.
Talk about great. You're talking about the guy that competed in the first match in the history of the promotion in 2001. Still with us.
Yeah.
Now, I may not like a lot of Slick's antics inside the ring. Sleazebag, if you
Well,
will.
he's the Reverend. A Reverend's been known to, you know.
Oh, you're talking about the
Oh,
Doctor.
no, Slick. I meant the Doctor of Style Slick. But there is Slick Wagner Brown.
All right.
Slick Wagner Brown. I've been around him quite a few times. He was always a gentleman to me. Now, in the ring, yeah, he's had some issues. But, you know, I think once you're in that squared circle, Dan, it kind of, sometimes things kind of change a little bit.
They do.
You know? Now, will he'll be part of the Uprising faction, obviously.
Well, that's what his contract says.
Well,
so.
it makes
I
me
mean,
wonder.
the interview we did with Cam Zagami is very interesting, how we broke down the 5 members that will be there, and that's not even including Ring of Honor's Brian Malonis.
It's interesting because a guy like, Ring of Honor, my gosh, did you hear the news about them?
Well, that's what I get that joke when the Steiners were coming out. I didn't know if it was appropriate. You know, me, sometimes I can be a little sarcastic, but I feel for anyone that loses their job.
I just heard about it 20 minutes before I left the house to come here.
I didn't know anything about it until our guest of honor showed up. I've been so busy. Today's been my first day back after a whopping 4 days. I've had 8 days off in 2021.
Yeah. This guy is like a marathon man. He's like the old WWF schedule when they went, we did 90 days on the road. We did 97, 99, 115.
Days. Not saying 8 days off, including the weekends. 8 days total in almost 10 months. For you, because we love you.
Yeah. Every time I talk to Dan and I say, what about this? What about that? He always says, well, what's best for the fans?
Who's that?
I always
who said that?
No, I'm looking at some of the comments.
I think you said a fan said that.
I have some of the comments. No, I always say that. So what are some of these comments? Braun Breaker. Oh, we were talking about main event stars. There aren't any major main event stars for WrestleMania except for Roman. And ROH is hurting financially. Now, ROH for a while, they were doing tape shows, and you could watch them on Fight TV. They have an app, and you could watch the shows. I think I watched an episode or two. Nothing against Ring of Honor. I used to love them when I was years ago, but I haven't watched too much of their product. It's sad when anyone loses their job, like all those people.
Yeah, that's who I feel for, and that's why I felt bad about the joke I made.
And they were, Ring of Honor had a real, I'm not going to say they were ever as big as, WCW or maybe even ECW, but they had a real strong promotion at one point for an independent promotion. For an independent promotion, they were the third biggest promotion in the country at one point.
I'll say this. I think Sinclair should be ashamed of themselves that they never invested the money that they could have in that promotion.
$1 million.
I think Sinclair that had more money than WWE should be ashamed of itself that they owned their own TV stations, yet they wouldn't come up with the time slot each week on the same channel at the same time so they could promote it. Yeah. Tuesday nights at 9, Ring of Honor Live, or whatever they wanted to do. Yeah. They did their athletes a disservice. They did themselves a disservice. It just showed they really weren't all that interested in the company. And, I'm sure a lot of those great talents are going to find a landing spot, but there's a lot of free agents out there right now.
Well,
I don't know how many internet matches AEW can put on Doc.
Oh, gosh. They're starting to put ads, I think, and you have to watch the 1 minute ads for the video of people wrestling at this point.
It's crazy.
But I will say that could be an opportunity for someone like yourself who's always looking for fresh young talent.
Yes.
Or talent that's never really gotten that break they need.
There's a lot of guys in Ring of Honor that have competed here before. So I'm interested to reach out to. There's a lot of people I'd like to reach out to tonight.
There's a couple people I could think of offhand. I don't know how you feel
we don't want to
about
name any names, but I don't want to disappoint anyone.
Well, no, I understand that. But I think Ring of Honor, is one of those things where on one hand, I hear about them releasing everyone and think, oh my God, this is bad for the wrestling business and those people. And on the other hand, it might be an opportunity for someone to reinvent themselves, or it might be an opportunity for someone to pick up someone. WWE could look at that company, or AEW can pick a couple. They might pick a couple, but they're not going to pick, everyone up.
AEW is hitting the jackpot. Between WWE releasing 70 talents since April of 2020 that they weren't expecting to be able to sign,
but it's
guys that left on their own as free agents like Adam Cole and Daniel Bryan. They hit the jackpot. Yeah. Now everybody at Ring of Honor is hit their
I was going to say,
fingertips.
I agree. Lazy Bum at one point, Ring of Honor, I think, had some of the best wrestling I ever saw. And they had a very niche product. in a lot of ways.
That's a good way to describe
They
it.
had a niche product. I could see what, and looking back, I watched some of those tapes and think, it wasn't as great as I remember. But at the time, I mean, a lot of it still holds up. To be honest with you, I'd rather watch a lot of the Ring of Honor product than what's out today. But to be honest with you, a lot of what Ring of Honor did 10, 15 years ago is what you see in wrestling today.
Sure.
So for better or for worse, they had a big influence.
And a lot of the guys, the athletes.
Oh gosh, yeah. Look at I think Cole and the Bucks and Punk and all those guys. Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson. I should say, but it's just sad.
They survived. They had that big scare with that Rob Feinstein underage boy sex scandal.
He still has a company.
I don't know why anyone would want to deal with the guy.
You know, I've never met him. I've heard he's a fairly nice gentleman.
No, he's a sleazebag.
Well, even just dealing with him.
What's that?
Even just dealing with him. Have you dealt with him before?
Yes.
Okay. All
And
right.
you know what?
I'm not taking
My
away
nose is saying I need a timeout.
Yeah. Well,
So I'm going to shut the mic.
all right. You do what you got to do.
You got to carry it for me,
I
baby.
will. This match has actually been pretty. It's been interesting. I feel like WCW liked a lot of matches, but lawn heat. They loved a lawn heat.
Yes.
WWF, the babyface, they want the babyface to kind of be a little bit more shined up. But WCW, they liked the lawn heat. Would that be a fair assessment to anyone out there? WCW, NWA, they liked more lawn heats as opposed to WWF. Is that a good assessment? Because that's what I'm getting from, especially with this show. And Scott Steiner, I mean, Scott and Rick were at their probably physical primes here. Ron Simmons was probably at his physical prime in a lot of ways. Butch Reed was kind of towards the end of his physical prime. Wasn't quite what he was, say, 5 years earlier in Mid-South. Butch Reed had a fantastic, fans had a great retention, but that's true. That is true. Oh. A pile driver. That's true. I think with phones, I mean, you don't see one person here with a phone in their hand. Not one. But yeah, it looks like, to me, the fans seem to be a little bit more, which is a problem with today's wrestling fans. I think the fans aren't as hot. AEW has some hot crowds. I'll give them that. But I just don't see as many hot fans. And the crowd here has been kind of meh. I don't think they've been really hot, but I don't think they've been terrible. They've just been kind of mad at me. You know, they've been okay overall. Yes, the fallaway slam. That was a great move. He would spike his head half the time, but that was a cool move. Oh, we got a tag to Rick. We got Butch and Rick. Who do you think was the toughest man in this? Like, who's the one guy you probably wouldn't want to mess with in this ring? I got to say, toughest guy was probably Rick Steiner. Butch Reed was up there, too. I think it'd probably be Rick or Butch, to be honest, out of the two of them. Oh, hey, referee, get him out of there. This is what I hate. I hate when a ref doesn't get people out. Oh, Frankensteiner. Sweet move. Looks as good now as it did then. Oh. Power slam again. What's going on? We got woman is coming up into the ring. Oh, the crowd's coming up a little bit for this. Oh, what's going on? She gonna put something in the mask? Ron Simmons, toughest guy. Ah, okay. Oh, geez. One. Yep, and there it is. There it is. This is the third match in a row where the heels have gone over. Oh, no, excuse me. Tommy Rich went over in the last match. So, I take that back. When did Two Men unmask? Was this like a couple months later they took the masks off? I think it was around beginning of 90 they took the masks off. So I think they got unmasked about 2 months later. I could be wrong, though. Phil has to pick up his daughter from gymnastics. Phil, have a good one. Hope to see you back soon.
Well, we'll see you on the 13th, baby.
Yeah, that'd be great to see him on the 13th, too. We love Phil here at the NWF studios.
Tell your friends, tell your family. Put the link up. You can't put the link up because you don't know
Know what it is. All right, folks, I apologize for that. I have had a phlegm attack of some kind for a little over a week. I don't know what brought it on.
Well, now we're on the Lex Express.
Well, a little early for that, but
Also, loved how Luger pointed his finger. He did the finger pointing.
at who?
Just the camera. Look, he articulates with his finger. If you watch, he does something with his hand, and then he always moves his hand along.
Wow, is he big there?
See? Wants to underline what he says. He looked huge. When he went to Vince, I actually thought he looked even more shredded, but he was smaller.
Huh. Yeah, you know, and in the hips.
Yeah. But I think he was off whatever he was on here.
He almost looks like he's got gas marks on his chest.
Yeah, what's on his abs? There's some weird spots there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Did I put my mic back on? Yes, I did. Okay. I didn't want to lose the fans after they saw us doing that for so long.
What do you think about the show so far?
I have enjoyed Halloween Havoc. You know, I'm sorry I had to miss the first 2.5 matches, but I just love this time period in wrestling in general.
What I did enjoy about the later pay-per-views, especially when it came to WCW, is they would do a lot of stage sets, like Halloween Havoc had
Yes, they had very nice sets.
Oh, fantastic.
These come off so cheap looking.
Well,
this looks like one of our events.
Well, this was still kind of a southernish territorial wrestling show, which was fine in its own way. But they had some lights there. They had some stuff going on. Oh, wait, we got cheerleaders. We got cheerleaders. Who is coming out now? Brian Pillman.
Hey, one hell of a talent. His son is you know what? Again, what he did in the ring here with us speaks for itself, but a hell of an athlete. He's tearing it up in AEW. I'm proud of young Brian. He hasn't had the easiest of lives.
They push him a little bit and they stop. That's the one thing AEW don't get. They do the start, stop.
He's still a little green. I don't know if he's ready for the big push yet. I think he's going to get it.
Well, I like him in that Griff Garrison as a tag team. I like that tag team. I would have pushed them and got them, put the straps on them. I mean, Griff's a little green too, but I like them together. I did. If I was running that promotion, I would have developed them as the young Rock and Roll Express-ish tag team of that.
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good analogy.
Oh, Luger and Pillman. Yeah, now these two.
Well, it says a lot about the wrestling industry at this point that people found more money in Luger than they did Pillman. I mean, certainly Luger's bigger.
But Luger probably drew
bigger
more
physique
money than Pillman.
He was never really a draw anywhere he went. I mean, when he came into NWA, that company was on the decline. He drew nothing in WWE.
Well, he drew with Flair. Well, granted, that was Flair. In the NWA, they were doing great business when he went in there in '87.
It was in a decline when he got the push.
That wasn't necessarily on him, though.
Well, he didn't do anything to turn it around. WWF was a waste of time.
Well, I think they did the wrong push. Gosh, he screams heel.
And by the time he came back to WCW, the package of that company, I think, was on the rise. I think that was one of the more memorable angles of the era.
Would you say he was good for a top guy, but he wasn't never good? He wasn't going to be the face of the company. He's in the mix, but he's not the face.
Top 8 to 10.
I'd put him, depending on the time, I would say top 5 to 7. But okay, I can see your point. It depended on how heavy the main event scene was. I could tell you this: in '97. If you go back and watch him beat Hogan, he is over like Rover.
Yeah, well, everything in that company was over at that point.
If you cut to 2-3 years later, by the time WCW went out of business in '01, no one gave a damn about him.
That's what I mean. Look at WWF during the Attitude Era. You had guys like Val Venus and Gangrel and Godfather that were over as more than some of the top guys in WCW.
There was, I think Disco Inferno.
That's the product.
Disco
I mean, that's
yeah.
that's the entire promotion that's
Disco
over
Inferno
at that
had a
point.
story about they do the quarter-hour ratings. They did the Mean Street Posse against Hogan and Savage or Hogan and Flair in a cage, and the Mean Street Posse did a better rating than Hogan did.
What was it again?
The Mean Street Posse did the same. They were in the same segment as Hogan in WCW, WWF. Mean Street Posse did a better rating than Hogan and Savage, I think it was, or Hogan Flair, in like a cage match. And this was on Raw and Nitro. The
That's
Mean
the
Street
same
Posse,
thing.
who were the low-card jabroni Shane O'Mac characters, you know.
Even during the WWF early days of the Attitude Era, when Austin was feuding with the Hart Foundation. I mean, Austin was selling 1 million T-shirts a month at one point, and then ratings-wise, you know, they'd be getting crushed by luchadors.
Right.
Because it was the product that was so hot with WCW.
Also, I want to get your take on this because you've spent time in production and understood different values. I've always heard WWF had a superior production than WCW.
Oh, you can't even.
But
Night
hold
and day.
on. This is what I'm trying to ask about. If you watch WCW from 97 and 98 and even 96, I look at their show. I think their show looks better than WWF show from a visual perspective. I think they had a better, slicker looking show with better production values.
Then Monday Night Raw in that era?
I mean, look at Monday Night Raw 97. It's a very bland looking show and how it's produced. WCW had a slicker show. They looked like they put more money into the visual representation. Even the graphics, I think, looked better. So to me, when people say, oh, the better production was in WWF, I have to disagree. I think WCW had better production for a little while.
I think once they added the Titantron, it improved a lot.
Now,
compared to
WCW
just those
towards
big
the
block
end,
letters.
the last year or so, the production looked, man. Look at WCW in 2001.
Even what
like
they did with
town.
the logo.
Oh, they should have never changed it. That little weird thing. But I think in 96 to 98, I think WCW had a slicker looking show than WWF. And, you know, WWF, I'm not saying they had a better show, but they just had a more, they almost seemed like they were doing the reverse of what WCW was doing in the 80s. They seemed to kind of be going to a more back to basics approach, you know. But then again, look at the production in WWF in 90 or 89, 90, then look at it again in 94. It had gotten way worse, I think.
Cutbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, they were losing so much money. They lost so much top talent.
Yeah.
Because of the steroid scandal and the steroid testing.
Yeah.
And
it's awful. WWF actually in their house shows, I think, were playing their music out of a boombox for some of their shows.
oh, at some of the Garden House shows they would, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, I mean, they wouldn't, you know.
Not at TV tapings, but at house shows, yeah. That wasn't uncommon at all.
I think these guys work pretty well together. I think there's something that I don't think they liked each other much. I don't think they were hanging out outside of the ring, but I think they had some good chemistry.
Well, I mean, Pillman could go with anybody.
You know,
I don't know whether if it was an interview or a book, or I know there's a tremendous book about Brian Pillman that I've
Crazy Like a
read.
Fox?
I think so.
I haven't read it, but I heard it's great.
Very good. He greatly, I don't know if it was a personal thing, but he resented where Lex Luger was on the totem pole, just based on work ethic, attitude, performance, and so on and so forth. And I can understand that. But I mean, Luger just looks almost, if you look at two pictures, Luger looks like a Brian Pillman 6 inches taller, and 30, 40 pounds heavier.
Yeah. You know,
but talent-wise, I mean, you're talking night and day.
Yeah, and I'm sure, and to be honest, I'm sure if you asked Lex Luger today, he probably wouldn't admit it back then, but today he'd say, oh yeah, Brian Pillman was way more talented than I was. But Lex Luger now is like, I've never seen someone become more humble in life than Lex Luger. That's two different people.
You know what? That's one that I believe God really touched the soul of. He's a very nice guy. I've spoken to him before about the possibility of coming in for different events. I'd love to have him in studio. It's very difficult for him to get around because of his mobility problems. But
I did read his book actually not too long ago. Luger's book. It wasn't a bad read at all. You could tell he was a little insecure about himself, but he was always on the. You know, he was always trying to come across as he knew everything and he was good at everything. But I will say, in the ring, he's better than what people give him credit for. I think, especially in this era. With the right guy, I think he was very good. He'd be a star today, a bigger star today than he was then. In a world of Johnny Garganos and Adam Coles,
I don't know if the fan base that's left
okay.
would want to see the Luger of then, if that makes any sense.
Well, that's a shame of it. I mean, we're in a fan base of today that, I'm not trying to call him out, but Dave Meltzer, they kind of go by what a guy in a magazine writes. And that's kind of how a lot of the fan base is today. Now you were speaking of big guys like Luger. I was thinking about how he'd be perceived. He'd probably be similar to a guy like Lance Archer, who just had that terrible injury. I guess he just got injured the other day.
I would say Luger is better than Lance Archer.
Well, Lance Archer's been around forever. I remember he was Dallas in the old TNA days with Kid Cash.
Yeah, I remember I met him during that first TNA house show loop in New England they did in June of 2007, the weekend of the Benoit situation, and he seemed like a nice enough guy.
Fun fact, speaking of Kid Cash, I have his action figure.
Kid Cash, MWF alumni.
So, he seems like a very straight-up guy. I never met him, but I
didn't care for him.
Didn't care for him?
No.
Not a particular fan?
Kid change to me.
What's that?
Kid change. No dog, no cash, just change.
Any particular reason? His personality just prickly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one I'd ever want to bring back,
Right.
and we didn't.
Now, I thought as a worker he was decent. I thought he wasn't bad in the
No,
ring.
he was
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
I guess is the way I'd describe him.
Yeah.
He was solid.
Yeah.
There was nothing about him that stood out and said, geez, I want more Kid Cash. But,
Yeah. Smaller guy.
Yeah.
but-
Cruiserweight type. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like a legit 5'9" and maybe 180 pounds. But granted, I think it's funny because he got over by looking like Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. But no, I went through some. I was in my basement and I saw these old action figures I had as a kid. And I had some interesting names. I had a very odd collection of names.
What promotion was the Kid Cash figure from?
This would have been WWE. His WWE run back in 05-ish, 06.
I don't know if ECW got around to making a Kid Cash figure.
I had him.
And I know there was that limited series of TNA figures that was out at one point. And then Jax bought them, and then Jax just kind of gave up on them.
I will, full disclaimer, I don't have the old Greg Valentine Hasbro from back in the day that's worth, I don't know, like
well, I know someone that does.
Oh, our Mr.
She didn't need the figure.
I thought you were talking about Matt Cardona.
Oh, no. He has, and that Zach Ryder to people in English, but
Right.
he has the official real deal Rhythm and Blues Greg Valentine,
With the black hair.
not some copied version.
Mhm.
I think
How much is
I
that
heard
worth?
somewhere they made like 10 of them.
How much is that worth? A real one?
Got to be a lot. I remember being so disappointed seeing it in the ad in WWF magazine that they were going to have the tag team set at Toys R Us, but the Hammer went blonde and Honky Tonk went home. So there was they didn't want to merchandise it, I guess.
Mr. Wonderful, wrestling needs the gas. Those are the best years. Well, that's an interesting conversation.
Well, you know what? I can understand both sides of the coin on that argument. I don't necessarily agree. I don't necessarily disagree.
I think people want to see larger-than-life characters of all time. Oh, we got Luger calling a spot here.
I think the biggest problem in wrestling now is it's just gas or no gas. There aren't a heck of a lot of guys of big size. I know Jerry Briscoe and I have had that conversation many times.
Mhm.
Where did all of the big guys go?
Well, you mentioned his name, Braun Breaker. Is Braun Breaker's a pretty solid-looking guy. Now, is he on the gas? Look at Drew McIntyre and Big E.
You can beat any test with the right stuff.
No.
Let's not kid ourselves.
And people have to realize, just because you take steroids doesn't mean you look good. You have to train. You have to.
Oh, sure.
I'd be willing to bet both of these gentlemen were on the gas, and they looked phenomenal.
I'm on steroids.
Prednisone?
True story, yeah.
Yeah.
But, that's not for the guns, baby. But
Right.
let me tell you, down at that Universal Studios Hotel, they saw me at the pool, baby. And they all went back to their rooms. But
Do you think when you were in Vegas with Captain Lou and Din Fan, they were looking at those two fellas? And
they were
saying,
probably looking at me, wondering why I didn't have any suntan lotion, considering how red I was.
you know, and were they looking at you three walking into the hotel room together and wondering what was going on there?
Well, they said, geez, I wonder how much those two cost.
I think if you gave them 2 cents, you'd still need change back. But that's a different story.
Now that looks like Hat Guy from ECW.
Is this Philly?
Yeah, you know what? That had to have been Hat Guy minus the hat straw
Now,
or the straw hat.
We were talking about the Greg Valentine dolls. What happened to all the collectibles behind me?
Well, because for our MWF shoots, I wanted to have a little bit different ambiance than what we do for historical type talk shows. So for our more MWF themed tapings, this is kind of what I'd like to go with, as opposed to the wrestling store that exploded on our wall that we have for studio shoot interviews, like we're going to be having November 12th, 13th, and 14th. Great guests lined up. The superstars and legends of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Fans, I can't tell you enough. Those that have bought the VIP packages especially, and that's not a knock against someone that got a general admission ticket, but VIPs especially, you help the cause so much, so much. And they've gone exceptionally well. They're over half gone. If you want to get the best value in professional wrestling with perks galore, head on over to bostonwrestling.com now. Like I said, we had to make some changes. We had to make some additions. I mean, we even have talent coming in from AEW. We got a little bit of everything.
And you'll have me there. If you see me there, please feel free to come and say hello. We'll shoot the breeze. We'll talk shop. Whatever you want to do.
Something, all right.
Yeah, well, whatever you want to do, just let me know. Just come and say hi at least.
I may be hard to find on the 13th, but you never know.
You're gonna be like the Howard Hughes of the day.
It's gonna be like, where's Waldo?
Well, any updates on that, or is that still a case?
That's still a pending case with City Hall Human Resources on Penngate, but
that is something you can't make.
It is going to be an interesting 17 days, folks. There isn't going to be much sleep. I told my good friend, the French douchebag, that I'm going to be here early in the morning with him, getting the video projects done. Have you ever met FDB?
I think you told me about him.
I've told you about him. He plays what we call French fuck music. Every morning he has this. It's almost like being serenaded when you walk in. And at one point, I'll be on. Hopefully, he's not watching. What does it sound
like? Is it like trance music?
He kind of, yeah. It's like it depends on his mood. Some days it's thinking. I look at the headline on the YouTube video. Some day it's stress relief, relaxation. But I've just trimmed it down to all of the songs being French fuck music.
Hey, now is he French or is he?
No, he is. And at one point he was a douchebag too. But I've come to. I like him now. We get along well, but the nickname stuck. He's a nice douchebag.
We're all douchebags to some degree. But you know what, though? I don't think you're going to know what's going on the day of the 13th until about the day of the 12th. To be honest with you, I think it's going to come down to the wire.
Yes.
And even then, it's going to be a little ambiguous.
It was just, I found it to be frustrating and a shame where I get to spend such little time with the little Marathis, that what little time we had on that little vacation, I was stressing and working on trying to find replacements. That's one thing that bothers me about wrestling. But you know what? Again, for the ticket buying fan, you have to sacrifice a lot. If you're not willing to sacrifice like that, get out. You don't belong in this industry.
One thing that and actually he's one of the gentlemen that's going to be on the card, Duke the Dumpster Josie. He said in an interview once, someone asked him, I said, oh, is so-and-so an asshole? And he said, it's the wrestling business. There's all assholes. It's just different levels of asshole. So the guy you deal with might be kind of an asshole, but then this next guy might be a complete asshole. And the next guy you deal with is the sweetest man in the world. It's all kind of a hierarchy of a-holes, if you will, a hierarchy of douchebags. I'm sure you've dealt with people who
French
are like,
ones.
I'm sure you've dealt with many people. Somewhere on a scale of 1 to 10, there are 20. You have to rank them twice. And other people, they're like a 4. They're like kind of a dick, but you could deal with them easily, I'm sure.
I usually try and get rid of the ones I don't like pretty quick.
Well, I think
because you know what? I don't like the environment is stressful enough.
Oh, no, I agree.
I don't need anyone to make it more difficult needlessly.
Geez, that was a good spot.
Unless they're worth an awful lot of tickets at the box office.
Well, and that's the thing. Sometimes you've mentioned names to me. I'm not going to speak any names, and sometimes I'm like, no one's going to give a damn. And I think sometimes people have to know their worth a little bit, in all honesty.
Well, I'm going to tell you an interesting story later on. If the fans explode with VIP packages, I'm willing to add a ninth 90s new generation type legend that is a Hall of Famer that I spoke with this afternoon when I was trying to edit.
Any hints, or is that going to be a secret?
They were a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
But, it came down to a certain price tag, and
World champion?
you could say that.
Okay.
But you know what? If I could see 10, 15 VIP packages, I could certainly sort it out. They were very interested in coming in and helping, but this isn't a situation where they say, oh, it's a fundraiser, let me come in for free. There's their appearance fee, and then what they usually don't consider is the cost of the airfare, the hotel, transporting them around, advertising them, the time spent on making videos, graphics. It's an extensive cost, an extensive experience. That's why when someone like you have Hacksaw take ill, you have Ron Simmons decide to be an asshole and no show. I mean, it causes havoc. The whole monstrosity that turned into the event going from the 80s to the 90s. I mean, my God.
You haven't stressed out about this event for at least, I think, when did I start coming around here? I've known you for a while, but recently really started coming around during the summertime. You were stressed out back then in the summertime, You can go back and watch the videos back to May, back to that time period. And you're talking about 6 months from now, and it's just been one thing after another. By the way, this match, Luger was calling a lot of spots audibly. He was talking a lot in this match. He was pulling a John Cena.
You want to know something funny?
What?
John Cena followed us on Twitter tonight.
John Cena, the younger.
Junior, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's keeping tabs on Dad or what, but I was rather surprised by that.
It's interesting because Cam Zagami was a former contestant on a show of his, and that is his father. Maybe there's some motive on the part of Mr. Cena the younger.
I don't know. I found it very interesting.
Ooh, I thought this was a really good match.
That was, to be honest, one of Luger's better matches.
I don't know how I felt about that finish, though. The finish kind of... But Luger would be great on a show. I think Luger would be great to have in a future event.
I also think he has quite a story that he could share in studio.
I will let everyone know I've got my names I always feed to Dan, and he sometimes gives me a little smirk, or he gives me a little bit of a scowl depending on the name. But I think Luger would be a great name.
The problem with Lex is the price tag.
Of just what he wants?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I think would be a great combination with Lex? Because they've been good friends and they had a small tag run, Bagwell. That's the scowl I get, because I would love the Bagwell.
That's pretty much the one he gets.
And you know what? If he ever brings in Bagwell, I would personally handle Bagwell myself. Not in that way, but I would be the guy. I take it back. I would be the one to spend time with Marcus. I'd rather spend time with him than Jannetty.
No. There's Road Warrior Animal, who was supposed to be sitting in Charlie's chair the weekend of November 13th.
Crazy.
And my good friend Paul Ellering, who I sat with at the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion.
How's he doing?
How is he doing?
Well,
great.
So is that crazy that he's the one that's living out of the three of them?
No.
He's the oldest one.
Do you think at this point he was doing the stuff that those two were?
Well, I knew Hawk. I didn't know about Animal, what Animal was up to back then. I thought Animal was always more the straight-laced one.
Well, he wasn't a drug guy. But, I think people kind of, oh, God. Peanut Head.
Dan Spivey and Sid. Dan Spivey was a decent-looking guy with his body, but when you're next to Sid,
I thought they were such an awesome-looking tag team.
And I think Teddy Long is one of the most underrated people in the history of the wrestling business.
Do you?
Manager, referee, character on screen. I think he's ridiculously underrated. Do you feel that sentiment, or am I just in that?
I think he's an exceptional talent. I think he's a great talker. I don't know why WWF wasted so many years of him as a referee.
He wasn't a bad referee at all.
But I mean, I'm
And-
sure there's a lot of guys they have under contract that could be great referees.
Who do you think their best referees now? Have they got that
I
guy?
don't even know them by name anymore.
Rod Zapata is one of them. I think
I recognize the name. I'm sure I'd recognize the face, but off the top of my head,
he's a little muscular, spiky hair, tan looking.
I don't know if I should say it on here, but someone we're very familiar with actually is in the process of signing with them as a referee beginning next month.
Oh, good for them.
I was very happy about that.
AEW, don't they have, was it Todd? What's his name? What's the referee's name? Todd something.
In AEW?
Yeah, what's his name? Wasn't he a referee from around here? He was a Ring of Honor referee 2 years ago. I can't remember his name.
And now he's in AEW?
I think so.
They had a Todd Sinclair in Ring of Honor.
Todd Sinclair, that was the name. I think
he's in AEW now?
He might be.
He's terribly out of shape.
He might be.
But at the end of the day, what does that mean? But
do you have a favorite referee in particular?
Nowadays?
Well, of all time. I thought Charles Robinson
I dislike the female ones for the reasons
Charles
I
Robinson
stated.
was great.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He's probably, you know what? That's probably the best one.
Mike
I
Chioda?
think. Well, he doesn't ref anymore.
Well, of all time.
I think I can't even think of his name. Earl Hebner's son in AEW is he's a good referee.
Well, I can tell you a terrible one. That Rick Knox fella is just god awful. The corpse that he is. And I will say this: Aubrey Edwards, not a fan. Bryce Remsburg is another one that's in AEW. He was a Chikara ref for many years, so he did a lot of comedy spots in his matches.
Then I don't like him. Then
we'll have to do
the best referees are the ones that you don't know are there.
I agree. We should do a Chikara show watch along one day of all the
I don't think I'd last 15 minutes without just decimating it.
No, probably not. But I do have the DVDs still at home.
What I find interesting, and I was thinking about this when I went on my cough break. What is going to happen with the Ring of Honor video library?
Sinclair owns it all, don't they?
They do.
Well, do they own the first couple years, or is that RF? Does Rob Feinstein own that?
No, he had to sign away everything.
Okay, so they should own everything in theory.
Would AEW be interested in picking up that library?
Oh, well, that's interesting. Bronco Lubitsch? Well, Bronco was old as hell.
But I mean, I love Bronco.
Pee Wee, Charles Robinson, Danny Davis, and of course we got Brian Hillenbrand was great.
He was really good.
God, he was great.
Danny Davis was a good ref before he started wrestling as Danny Davis and after he became a referee again.
You know what I loved about watching Danny Davis work, especially looking back at it now, the way he moved around the ring was just so...
Well, what a lot of fans never realized was that he was working the house shows almost every night under a hood. And then he'd ref.
What was his name under the hood?
Mr. X.
Oh, that's what it was.
I think sometimes maybe the Red Demon too, but it was usually Mr. X.
But he did work. You're right.
I'd love to have him in studio. He's right down the street from us.
And it's funny because even the way they put him in the gear, he had the referee tights and he had that white shirt because he was kind of a smaller guy for that time period too. He wasn't a big guy. He wasn't a big guy. I mean, he was smaller than Brett. And Brett wasn't the biggest guy.
Very small.
Yeah, so.
I think it's funny that if you go back to WrestleMania 3, he's the one that got the pinfall on Dynamite Kid.
Of all the people. Yeah. You would think that Dynamite would not go for that, but I guess he did,
Dynamite could barely walk.
At that point,
he was in such bad shape, the poor guy. Or unpoor guy, depending upon your thoughts on him. But
right, yeah.
Some say it was just desserts, but whatever the case may be, his body was decimated.
And it's especially when you look at him now and the stuff he was putting into his body and how it looked. I mean, people have to. I think when people do that too, there's a philosophy of you're going to go all out. You're going to go all out. I mean, look at Hawk. I'm even surprised that Sid's still walking around at 60 years old with the way he looked.
Forget about that. Just the injury he had at the January 2001 pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Sin, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Oh, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen in wrestling or otherwise. Oh, and he really wanted one last run with WWF.
If he was a little younger, I think he could have gotten it. Especially, I think he wanted to come up, 05, 06, 07? Was that the year he wanted it? He was just a bit old at that time, I think.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the late thousands.
Yeah, and I think too at that time,
Just to show how long it took for him to recover.
but I think too is like, you know, if he had been, by that point they had already built up guys like Cena, Batista, and Orton, and I think if they didn't need him at that point, you know, he would have brought. They had him come back, I think, in like 2012 for
one of those Raw anniversaries.
and he looked fine, but he was 50 years old. You know,
his biggest problem was trustworthiness, unreliable. I mean, just he no-show and quit. I mean, every time he had a big run, the only one that didn't end badly was that time he was almost lost his foot in WCW.
Well, that ended badly.
His first run here ended horribly. His first WWF run ended horribly. His second WCW run was the Arn Anderson situation.
So the first run, he has said, I think, that Vince called him when he was up for negotiations and said, I'll come make you got Hogan's spot. He's like, okay, I'm going to take Hogan's spot. He goes there.
More along the lines of he kind of held them up for money. Then they were going to give him the money, and he still quit. He was supposed to put over Elegante on his way out, and that match turned into a complete and utter disaster.
Well, what do people
but that is the reason why, as far as I know, is why Hogan and Flair wasn't the main event of WrestleMania 8. They promised him Hogan to get him to jump.
This is what I've heard. He wanted Hogan's spot, and then some people have said he actually saw himself as a heel when he got there, which would go against him being in Hogan's spot, because Hogan's spot, you're the top babyface. Hogan's spot means you're the top, you're the face of the company, you're the top babyface.
I think they were smart enough to know that he was going to get a big reaction jumping
but
ship.
He was over, and he was one of the first.
And he was over.
Yeah, people loved Sid. I mean, and the thing is, as good as over as he was, he had more to contribute to the wrestling, but he could have been even a bigger star.
And if you go back, if you can find an original copy of Royal Rumble 92,
there's always money. Yeah.
When him and Hogan were eliminated, the fans went wild for Sid. Then I remember watching the next weekend on Superstars. The audio was changed where it was all for Hogan.
Oh, God.
I said, I watched this. This didn't happen before I understood, you know, as a sixth grader, audio sweetening and so on.
And I'm sure Vince, in an ideal world, would have loved to put Sid in that spot. I'm sure it was.
No, I think everybody realized he was better as a heel.
Well, and and the same thing with Luger, right? He was better as a heel. Hogan was such a great babyface, and actually Hogan ended up becoming a great heel when he became Hollywood Hogan. But I think the same thing. Luger, kind of better as a heel. Sid, kind of better as a heel. You know, and then they ended up giving it to Bret Hart, and who was a great babyface, I thought. You know, well, a little mechanical, but I thought he was pretty good as a babyface.
I think Bret was a better face.
Yeah.
And I grew up with him as a heel.
I think so too. The only thing about Bret is sometimes I thought he was, like I said, just a little too mechanical, and I thought he could have showed a little bit more fire at times as a babyface. But that's my one nitpick on him. Because I think sometimes today we don't have that fiery babyface who puts their fists up and says, come on, and we don't have that anymore. It's weird. Like wrestling, when I grew up, they always had that, even up until 15 years ago. Now it just seems like there's that guy's.
Look at that from Sid. That may have been the most athletic thing I've ever seen him do.
Yeah, he was a great athlete. But no, I think wrestling misses that fiery babyface a little bit now. I don't think we have that as much. It's certainly
That's a good point.
It's certainly not in Jungle Boy or Darby Allin or even a guy like God. Who's the young babyface in WWE right now that's got it?
Well, Big E's the champion, and I see virtually nothing in him other than a mid-card comedy tag team guy. Drew McIntyre, I think the experiment failed.
Well, if he had the fans there, it would have helped him out. He really got hurt.
I think we don't know because we didn't have the fans. But they gave up on it at the end of the day. And now nobody cares, to be fair.
How many times can they you know what I think they do for fun? It's almost like how many times can we break the Jenga board down and then build it back up again? They want to see how many times we could break someone down until they're not over.
It's just with McIntyre, it's a lot of bad luck. I didn't see it being a great success, but it's unfortunate that the man didn't get the chance because WWE needed to give it a chance.
Yeah.
The fans, I think, would have liked to have given it a chance. They were really behind him in Houston
Yeah.
when he won the Royal Rumble, the way he eliminated Lesnar.
And when he beat Brock,
yeah.
you know,
Well, he beat Brock in the warehouse, but the way he
No.
eliminated him when they had the fans at that Stadium Royal Rumble. And I mean, what else is there? I'm trying to think of both sides right now. Who has what?
There's really no great young baby faces out there, I think. I mean, we said Braun Breaker, but Braun Breaker, I don't know if he's that kind of. He's a different type of baby face.
No, I've said, I don't know what one of the talk shows we do. I said, I've honestly, at this point, I can sit through an AEW show easier than a WWE one. And that's awful for me to be able to think that, but they're just, sorry, Sid. They're just the same shows over and over again. The new era has begun. Come on. Oh, and then the only time of the year that the two brands go head to head at Survivor Series, they wonder why they're selling no tickets.
It's just a very bland product.
The brand extension, they shouldn't do the draft, whatever you call it, anywhere near Survivor Series if they want to push it as that.
I agree.
It's the only time of the year that the two brands compete against each other, other than the brand-to-brand invitation where you can compete 4 times per year on the opposite show and just...
Well, they're trying to create their own competition within themselves. And the problem is, too, when you got 20,000 belts. And
that's another problem. No one cares.
You know, and you know what's crazy is I think back to that mid-'90s period where, remember that they did that Survivor Series, I think it was 95, where they would have heels and baby faces wrestling together. So you'd have...
That was a one-time shot.
Yeah.
It was the wild card match.
Which was a very... I appreciate the out-of-the-box nature of it, but it just very weird.
It was odd.
Very weird. I wouldn't do that. But I appreciate they were trying to. And here's the thing. They had no roster back then. Now they have too much of a roster, and whoever they have is just filler.
Well, the problem is it was a 1-hour show back then. And they did it. The roster in 95, 96 was very slim.
Yeah.
But you had an hour you had to fill, as opposed to 2 and now 3.
You know, and people say, oh, you can't do 3. I think you can do 3 if the writing's good, if you got the talent there.
If you have a big enough roster, you certainly can.
But
I think it's a lot. But I mean, is it doable? Yeah. You just have to have the right creative and not only the right talent, but the right variety. I don't think anyone should be on television 52 weeks a year if they're healthy. It is overexposure to the max.
Well, and that's
Give people a reason to want to tune in.
And that's
why do they get excited when Lesnar comes around? Because he's not around all the time.
And people always wonder,
you know something's going to happen.
And people always wonder, oh, should wrestling have off seasons? Because it's 52 weeks a year. WWE goes to the point, oh, it's the season finale of WWE, and then the next night the new season starts. It's like, come on.
I think and I would do it in rotation. It was an idea I had a long time ago, was that everybody should have a block of 3 months off outside of January through WrestleMania. Give them a chance to heal up, give them a chance to get a little bit of a break, freshen their characters up, and then they're only doing 9 months a year out of 12.
So when would they have it off? January to Mania?
No, I would have everybody available January through Mania. But outside of those 3 months, and everybody would get a 3-month block off at some point.
You just have to book your angles accordingly.
Yeah. I mean, it would take patience and pacing, which is 2 things they don't have. Paul Ellering up. I don't know what that key was. I don't remember that angle.
Oh, well, that's a shit.
That's a disqualification.
This match was just all over the place.
Visually good looking. You know, like I said, I don't think I've ever seen Sid more athletic. It seemed like he was at least trying at this point.
Sid was a fairly good athlete early on. He did the kip-ups quite a bit here or there. There's that infamous match of him and I think Sting. Was it Halloween Havoc of 90? I think it was.
We may see it live Sunday night.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to watch. And Barry Windham comes out. I don't know if Barry... I think Barry was in the WWF at this point still. He might have been...
Yes. He was just wrapping up his Widowmaker.
The Widowmaker.
His father and his brother were getting ready to go to jail.
Oh, God.
For counterfeit money.
What a weird call you got to be getting for that. What a weird phone
I
call.
thought
that's
he
gonna
would have
be.
been someone that would have been good to have been groomed for Warrior if he stuck around.
Who?
Barry
Windham?
Windham, yeah.
I think he could have definitely worked with Warrior. Would have had a good match with Warrior. I mean, the best matches Warrior had were with guys who, savage, rude guys who could work. And I think Windham was in that conversation. Guys who could go.
Just guys that could bump for him like he was like a ping pong.
Yeah.
I wish WWF was able to get a healthy Danny Spivey to be Waylon Mercy, because I really enjoyed those vignettes.
I'll say this. I saw him a couple years ago. I saw a picture of him. He is more red than a tomato with muscles. Just his veins are popping out. He's just looks like one giant vein of a human being.
We actually lived
Looks like a red penis.
Lived in the same city in Florida.
Is that
In a very remote city. And he owned, I don't know if he still owns it, but owned a breakfast shop.
Oh, okay. Sting with a rat tail. Flair.
He loved that rat tail.
Yeah, that's it. And then Ole Anderson, who was great on the mic.
Maybe as grumpy as me.
Close. I you know what I appreciate about Scrumpiness? I appreciate the fact that he's an asshole, but he tells you straight up. I appreciate that.
Well, wrestling fans, if you're enjoying this Halloween Havoc watch along, 10 p.m. sharp, we have the premiere of Wrestling Insider Special Edition. JTG is back. I love the episodes with JTG. While maybe he's not a historic figure as some we've had, he still has his finger on the pulse of the industry, had quite a career himself, grew up as a fan around the same time I did. I enjoyed tonight's episode a great deal. Last night, if you missed it, Just Incredible was back yet again on Wrestling Insiders Extreme, trying to get everything back caught up again. But we have so much going on MWF-wise, those great Cauliflower Alley Club videos. If you missed Rey Mysterio's Lucha Libre Awards speech, it is available online now, along with all of our great nightly content. Again, it is going to be a hell of a 17 nights for this individual. I don't know if I'd call myself a gentleman, but
well,
I'd like to.
You are a man.
I'm a man. Thank you.
Are you gentle? Well, that's a different story.
Well, you'd have to talk to Linda.
Well, maybe Annie.
Oh, Annie wouldn't know. Yeah. This is the main event?
We started the show just after 7. Oh, is this Bruno Sammartino coming down to the ring?
The living legend.
You know what his voice would make? People have voices, Dan, that make me hungry. Bruno
Sammartino makes you hungry.
He makes me hungry. His voice makes me hungry. He sounds like, if you go to a restaurant, you have something to eat, and a nice meal. I just feel like I could always hear his voice and feel hungry.
Enjoy a nice Italian meal with Bruno.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Yeah.
I've heard of stranger things, I guess.
Hey, I mean, my life is full of stranger things. Halloween's coming. There's going to be some strange things floating around this weekend.
Happy Halloween.
That's a great shirt. I love that shirt. Muda was just something else. He was so fresh.
It's too bad his run was so short.
And you know what? I think, too, when people talk about some of the Japanese wrestlers of today, they don't have someone like a Muda. And I think he'll always stand out. He was not the U.S. Was this the television champion?
Yes.
TV champion. But great athlete. He stood out. Just everything about him. Now, who's the gentleman walking?
Gary Hart was, I think, historically a very underrated manager to those that weren't fans at the time, because he never had that. He actually was going to have a WWF run. He was going to manage Earthquake. And something happened when the night he started at the TV taping. And I don't know if he quit, but he never wound up starting.
He's got that Bill Lee kind of voice, very quiet, soft-spoken, very gentle voice.
His problem was he couldn't bump
Yeah.
because of that plane crash he was in that killed Bobby Shane.
Terry Funk looks great.
This is the Elaine Sauer of NWA 1989, Terry Funk.
Hey, Terry Funk's year, 89. Him and Ricky Steamboat, great 89s.
It's too bad, what a short run Ricky had.
I mean,
He was already gone at this point.
Those matches in the '89 are actually the matches that made me a fan of Flair.
Really?
Those and the Luger matches from that time. Because as a teenager, I didn't get to grow up watching Ric Flair in his prime. I watched the old Flair. So I thought, he's just, whatever. And then I actually went back and looked at the matches that Flair was having back in 88, 89, 90, and they were phenomenal. Still stand the test. And he was about 40, early 40s, and he was still put on great matches. Some people, if you ask some people, this is Flair in his prime. And this would be part of his prime, in my opinion, too. I would say his prime was about 83, 84 to about 91. When he got to the WWF, that was kind of the end of it. I would take 1989 Flair over 92 Flair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That whole WWF run was...
He just got there a little late.
Not only that, it was just so backwards the way they did it and how quick they ran through certain opponents and how that whole Randy Savage feud was booked backwards.
I don't know. In it, too, it seemed like right after Savage lost the title, backed him in the fall, that was it for Savage. They never really... They got him out of the ring. I still think one of the biggest things they missed out on, was Savage and Hart in 93. That, I think, would have done something.
I'll tell you this. I was legitimately shocked that Yokozuna won the Royal Rumble. But they made a star in one night.
Yeah. But then again, after Yoko had that run, they never went back to him as a main event guy. They had that experiment with him, and they just kind of dropped him after that.
No, he feuded with Undertaker without the belt.
But then after that, he was a mid-card. Well, the weight probably was the big issue with him, too.
After he came back from being put in the casket by Undertaker, he was more, he still worked a heck of a lot of main events.
He worked with Diesel?
What's that?
A couple with Diesel. I think they did a cage match in the Garden, maybe?
Not Boston.
No, Madison Square Garden, maybe. I don't know if they did.
I don't remember that off the top of my head, not to say that it didn't happen.
But he worked with Shawn.
I know they worked some house shows.
He worked with Shawn as champ.
Yeah, I mean, he was a top 8 guy, like I was talking about with Luger almost. I remember that Survivor Series 96, my God. I don't know if that was his final appearance, but it was one of them. And he had to have been 600 or 700 pounds.
I remember. So if I look back, so he was tagging with Owen in 95.
Yeah.
And then in 96, Owen's tagging with Davey Boy.
Yeah.
So in 96, I think
that's when they turned him. It was really 96.
I think 96 is when. I think if I can remember, there's a match of him wrestling Shawn Michaels when Shawn's the WWF champion. So he's there in 96, like you're right. But I think after that, I can't remember him from 97. I think by 97
he was done in 97.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I don't know how he would have been in that Attitude Era.
Yeah.
With his size and gimmick, I don't know what they would have done with him. So it was kind of
I think he would have needed a little repainting.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
The biggest cage ever erected. Well, where is it?
What was the Halloween Havoc with, I think that's 91, where they have Abdullah in the shock cage and...
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, where are you with Sting? Did you prefer the Crow? Did you prefer the Surfer Sting?
I like this Sting.
I did too. I thought the Crow might have been a little bit of a deeper character, and it was kind of where the times were going. But I think his best stuff in the ring came as the Surfer.
I didn't mind the Crow Sting when it was silent and dark, but within a few months of him coming back to wrestle after one of the great build-ups they ever had in WCW with Hogan and Sting, even though the match turned into a disaster, he went back